Thank you, Nancy. What has your experience been? And are there stories that you look back at and say, the lives of these women were changed because of, the decisions they made in terms of investing within the circle?
What I can say here, our approach to women is slightly different from ours. Because what we do, we don't start from a table where you have been neglected. I, as the leader, am very, very vocal in telling women, hakuna kitu napewa bure, hakuna mesa mtaketi na wanaume wakupatie. And I was telling women when they were coming in, these organizations we celebrate to join were started by men, to be clear. And to start and run a company is not a walk in the park. I can tell you sitting here. For 21 years, I'm not taking leave. I'm almost 5 years now, without one single common board. That's why you have to find me. People are, how does she do it? Nothing will be given for free. But I also challenge you with this, and fortunately or unfortunately, most of you are employees. Serious. Can I tell you the truth? If you really confine yourself to employment, you will not have a very wide life in your, as you grow older in the employment. Unless you start also investing at a black where you can invest.
Wow, thank you, Nancy. Elizabeth.
All right, now my experience. So my experience, first of all, I would say that the entry of more women in the industry and in the investment arena is real, but it is not yet for celebration. It's still a small percent. So yes, it is true, when I joined the investment industry back in 2007, we were really minority. Now in the office we may be a little more. And now when I changed my job from being a fund manager and being a salesperson, which is my day job, no, just glorified salesperson, and I look at the data, the number of clients that we have who are women versus the men, we now have more women, but we're talking about a small pool. So you see, when you look at it, in terms of percentages, I would say I have about 55% women investors and about 45% men. That sounds nice, right? But what is that pool? It's a pool of investors who have less than 30,000. What's Kenya's population? Do you see why we can't celebrate? The majority are actually not within the investment circle. If I blow that number to industry numbers in the investment management investors, and I use unit trust products because they are the most affordable, the easiest to start as a woman or as an individual, we have less than 200,000 accounts between all fund managers in Kenya. Isn't that disappointing? And I can tell you, the value of the assets that are invested is now just above 110 billion shillings in an economy that is boasting being in trillions of shillings. And now if you drive down to women also come in big numbers, but they don't have value. Exactly what she's talking about. So women are more, but there's no value. They are investing little. And I commend them for starting there. Men come maybe less, but they're coming with value.
Over and above all that, the awareness or the education of financial products, we still have a long way to go as women. We rely a lot on word of mouth, and I say that's good in a way, but I see a lot of instances where women will make financial investment decisions because my best friend told me about it, or my sister told me about it. And sometimes you can ask, did you really know what you were getting into? And by the time you know what you're getting into is when you go to social media to rant about company XYZ is a scam, we have lost money. So I would really, really challenge us is to take time to, and it's also a challenge from our end as providers, as the developers of this product. We are always getting this pushback of, can you simplify your products, make it easy to understand? But as we also work on that end, the challenge to both you and also to myself, as much as I am in the financial services industry, I fall into this trap. I want to easily just go and sign on to it. But let's understand what it means when we say you are investing in a money market fund or you are buying a certain stock. What are you really getting into? And is it going to deliver what your goals are? Let's educate ourselves. And right now, the one thing that I see is so much hunger from women. Every forum that you come, women will come and they will want to understand, like you have come today. And it's good that you're equipping yourself with knowledge and information about investments. That's the first step. But we have so much more to do, and with more awareness within the women's segment, I'm sure we will then make steps and progress.
Well, thank you for sharing great insights indeed, and hopefully that euphoria, will come back again. And I know there's been a lot of conversations about getting other companies to list again in the stock markets. So hopefully that euphoria will bring a lot more people and the excitement back into the stock markets. Jerry, what should women take into consideration when they begin their investment journey?
Thank you, Terry, and I'll start with where Jackie left off. How we often make our decisions is check with a friend, look at the next trend and say, that's a great thing. So we have to go back to fundamentals and start with, who am I? And we keep saying an individual investor has three stages in the investor life cycle. And the first stage is the accumulation phase. At this stage, you're between the ages of your 20s and 30s. I keep saying at this stage, the beauty of it, even if you went back home and took water and slept and riot, everything would still work, because there's nobody else who gets to stray. So during this phase, you're probably not making a lot of money, but it is when you have the greatest opportunity to save at every opportunity. Something that Elizabeth mentioned, go back, save daily, save weekly, put in a shilling at every opportunity because it's going to count, and it's going to count later. During the accumulation phase, you can take on high-risk investment. The stock market should be your everyday playing field, because remember, we talk about high risk, high return, standard rule of investment. So when we say the stock market will have, it will have bulls and bears, you ideally have quite some time to be able to ride through that. So the accumulation phase is absolutely critical to your wealth creation journey for every individual. The second phase is usually called the consolidation phase, between about your 40s and your 50s. During this phase, you have standard commitments, you're paying rent, or rather you're paying a mortgage payment, your fees coming through every so often. So now your investments begin to be somewhat balanced. You can afford to take on your high-risk investments, you want to take on some balanced risk here and there, and there's a reason for that. Well, you're doing short-term, which is school fees is being paid next week, school fees will be paid in 3 months' time, that stays in the short-term investment. A money market will be great for that kind of investment. If you're looking for something more medium-term, a balanced fund will be great, buying some shares and mixing up your portfolio will be great for that kind of investment. Long-term, you still have some long-term goals and your retirement is still coming up. The last phase is the deaccumulation phase, and at this phase, mostly you're heading towards retirement. You can already see you're already retired, your income may not be so consistent, and in this phase you begin to consolidate, or you have everything you have, you sort of know what your income is. You know what, from all my assets, I can give probably 100,000, and that's what I'm spending. Now in this phase, we often don't recommend that you're taking high risk. And the reason for this is perhaps you go and buy a certain share, and probably a month from now it's at an all-time low. You probably may not have the strength to watch it or to wait for it to come back. But also you are really now living off what you have built over the years. Now I recognize that when we say 20s and 30s, 40s and 50s, 60s to 70s may somewhat feel constraining, but I can tell you, looking at different professions, you can find that some may start out later or earlier, but you want to be able to look at where am I? Am I at the accumulation phase, the consolidation phase or the accumulation phase?
Let me come to you now, and you did talk about some examples and global comparatives in terms of growing the retail investment space and the opportunities that are available there. So we know very well at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, definitely it's more men, more institutional investors. How do we get the ladies in the room today to find those opportunities? How do they learn to start off, for instance, and how do they grow?
Thank you very much. So yesterday I was doing some digging around, looking for some data on this, because there's actually not that much data, but I did stumble across a report done by the CPK every 2 years, looking at financial inclusion and access. And there were some interesting things in there. So if you look at the gap between men and women, it's narrowed over time. So women essentially have as much access to formal financial advice as men do. However, what was quite interesting was that women, and it's come up with the panelists that mentioned it, 50% of them actually get advice from friends and family. Men, it's actually 30%, so men are presumably consuming information from somewhere else. When you drill down to that, and they had a very interesting statistic, I don't know how true it is, but only 2% of women actually get the financial information from formal places, which is quite a staggering statistic, which actually, I guess, tallies into the sort of 50% that are around friends and family. So I think for us as brokers, clearly there's an information issue and there's an access issue. So what we need to do is basically make it easy to open an account, easy to fund your account, easy to transact. But more than that, we actually need to just demystify investing. People know insurance, so if you're driving a car, you need to get insurance. It means that if you're third party, X happens if you have an accident, you're comprehensive, Y happens if you have an accident. If you have a credit life policy because you've got a loan, you know it protects the principal if you die or something. So some things are very clear and easy to explain. However, sometimes I remember once I have an investment product with actually the company's not represented here, so I can talk about them. And I remember once actually a few years after I bought this product, I actually couldn't understand it. And even now, I still don't understand what I bought all those years back. And I go to the website and I look at it and I think, what is this? What's going to happen in 2029? I know it matures, but what do I get? What's going on? I actually don't know. And the website is so opaque, it's so full of no useless information. And I'm in the financial markets. Now imagine if you're a layperson who is trying to invest, you have no idea what you're doing. And I think this is why people buy land, because you can see it. However, I think the information thing, so I remember Riverside Drive, there was a big poster a couple of years back, invest in greenhouses and you can get X amount of return. And then I thought to myself, all of us, all Kenyans have some exposure to agriculture, whether it's your grandparents, yourself, your mother, your father. We all have a little patch somewhere, whether it's on your veranda or a country where you're growing tomatoes or onions or something, or you just in our life, yeah? You know that you cannot guarantee what you're going to get. We know that. It may not rain, if the rains may come late, your fertilizer might be stolen, the diesel for your tractor goes missing. There's a lot of variables. So someone put a big billboard saying that they promise you a certain return from a greenhouse. And I was like, this is nonsense. Because I know categorically you cannot do that, yeah? So I think as we grow these products, as we close this information asymmetry, and we make people start asking those questions, where is this return coming from? People come to me and say, oh, someone guaranteed me this. I say, well, do they have an oil well in their backyard? Because unless you have an oil field, I think oil is probably one of the few products where you literally can put a hole, in some places in the world, you can put a hole in the ground and the oil will come out like out of a straw. So if you're Saudi, yes, you probably have, I can say you're going to make $100 if you produce 1 barrel, that they can guarantee. But everything else is completely on a spectrum. So I think for us, what we're working on is trying to create a product where there's information for people, where it's accessible, where it's relevant, and then people can actually make the right investment decisions.
Thank you all so much for being here once again. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to each and every one of you who has